it working at all? Derek? There it is.
That's okay. Derek broke the internet.
Derek's having to be.
We were about to do the pledge, and then Eric.
That's why I said, Kristen's gonna be like, why are you guys standing? Because we broke
We
the
had no
camera.
picture.
Yeah, my face broke the camera. Come on, Derek, let's go. We're good? All right. While you get on set up here, this is the Finance Committee meeting, November 8th, 2023. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take it away, Kristen.
Oh, thank you. Is there any public comment? I do not believe there is any public comment, but I shall ask, is there any public comment? Going twice, going 3 times, no public comment. All right, we will move on to the financial management summary for the month of October. Mr. Bucci, if you wouldn't mind walking us through.
Thank you. So we've got a few months under our belt, 2 school months as well as the summer months that preceded us. It's shaping up to be a little bit of a challenging year, which we all expected given the budget that we went through. And what I mean by the challenging year is we had cut, and I'm cutting to the big piece here, we had cut when we went through the budget process about $130,000 out of our building and equipment repairs and maintenance accounts. That didn't stop the building repairs and maintenance, nor the equipment repairs and maintenance. We've had a couple of big ticket items. We had a geothermal pump fail at Chatfield Presti. We had to spend $20,000 on that. And as a result, you may recall that last year we were able to convert the pool from what was a liquid-based chlorine product that required CO tanks to inject. Well, that particular product is rather corrosive, and what has happened now is the tanks that do the filtration are leaking all over the floor. So we have now had to commission the replacement of those tanks, and that is going to probably cost us about $48,000 to get the pool up and running before these tanks just basically spill all over the floor.
Did we not know that that was a potential outcome?
Well, when this pool was installed and when they were using this liquid chlorine, I guess no one perhaps focused on the fact that this actual product that's been running through these filters for years and years and years essentially has a corrosive effect. I mean, these are old tanks.
We really didn't have a clue that that would cause that.
I mean, this has been going on for, what, 10?
So it wasn't the new product that we switched to?
Well, we switched to granular like what you have in your pool at home, which is you put the tablets in or you put and we've eliminated, that has been switched over, and we actually are now having a savings because we're no longer having to buy the tanks, we're no longer having to buy the actual liquid material, and we're also not having to pay an outside person now to monitor the pool because we have custodians now that are certified to be able to measure this stuff on an ongoing basis. This is just the residue of, 10, 15, 20 years of this stuff circulating through the tanks and ultimately corroded the tanks. And I guess, nobody knew at the time. This actually just happened, September was when Tim went into that room and essentially there's water all over the floor. What I understand is that they're knocking a hole through the wall so they can get the tanks out, and then there's a door that's going in, and what Tim told me was he believes that the door is being contributed. I don't know what the story is yet, and if there is a contribution, we'll obviously have to come and let you know, but there's a door that will then go where the hole is. They're not going to try to put the blocks back again, but when they built this room, they closed it in. So it has to be opened up so you can get these tanks out. So anyway, we then have the regular repairs and maintenance. It's a lot of A&B mechanical coming for various plumbing issues and the like. So it's just something we have to monitor. Right now, we have encumbrances in the system that are pushing us at about $70,000 potentially over budget on facilities. Now, we've had some savings in other areas. We, as you recall, reduced one of the principal positions at the high school, and so that occurred after the budget. And so that afforded us some savings. We offset that with some additional funds for athletic director, et cetera. But again, there's, in essence, about a $131,000 savings on the administrator line. With respect to spending some of that money, we, you may recall at the board meeting on September the 11th, you approved the additional math teacher for the middle school and plus 2 BCBA teacher specialist stipend positions. All in all, we've had some reduction in some of the other areas, unified arts and guidance, and these basically are just due to open positions that are currently trying to get filled. So we've got about a $96,000 pickup so far in certified staff. There's about a $38,000 pickup in non-certified staff, which is special education instructional paras, and I only caution that it's only 2 months of the 10-month school year, but so far we're tracking to budget. Office secretarial services, we had an opening at the high school for several months. That wasn't filled, so there was a permanent savings there for July, August, and the beginning part of September. And also, we are tracking really well so far with custodial services. We're projecting a $15,000 surplus. We're again really trying hard to control the overtime and the areas that had caused some problems in the past. Health insurance, I mean, it's a $29,000 benefit, but if one person comes in and elects to take the insurance, that goes away. So again, we're tracking that rather closely. We talked about facilities. So far, tuition and transportation as it relates to out-of-district special education is at or near where we are projecting this to be this year. The only unknown, again, is going to be what our reimbursement is. Last year, you might recall, at the end of the day, we wound up with $50,000 less than we had received the prior year on about $300,000 more of expenses than we had the prior year. And then as it relates to technology, one of the things we're looking at right now is there's an issue with the intercom system over at Chatfield at Presty. We have a provision, an encumbrance in the budget for that, but I've been working with Rob Dyer, and we are trying to work a grant. You may recall when we did the budget last year, we had this grant allocation from the state relating to cameras. What we're trying to do is take that same grant, which we have time on, another year and a half, 2 years, and see if we can fashion a solution, because some of this technology we have, which is in all of the schools, is becoming obsolete, outdated. And, you know, it's one of the things that we've been doing for years here, which is really related to budgets, is you throw money at things to fix it. But you never really do the wholesale fix. And you never upgrade your technology to the point where you could install systems that are integrated, that report to the police department, that measure, that give you the ability to see your doors. There's maybe 10 doors, let's say, in a school, all of which are fobs. You have no ability to determine whether you have a positive close on every door at all times during the day, so we're looking at ways to put sensors so that we can say that doors are closed, and if somebody, for instance, wedges a door to go out, you know, and whatever, that would set off an alarm in 10, 15, 20 seconds. So we're trying to work on a broad solution that we can bring to the board and present to you, which we're hopefully going to be able to fund with that grant. And it may be that we go back and just make sure that we can make some modifications. So we're working on a bigger solution that is going to position the district for 10 years to not have to deal with cameras and door sensors, and it will give us positive security. And I think that's really the important part of this, is that we can't just go and replace a door because it's not closing properly, when we don't really have any other confidence that any of the other doors are actually closed anyway. So we're trying not to just paper over problems and say we looked at them and dealt with them by doing one little thing. We're trying to say we have a comprehensive solution here. And, you know, that's not something that's going to happen in the next 30, 60, 90 days. In essence, it is something, though, that I think will provide a long-term benefit. As far as, I threw in here for reference, athletic supplies. You may recall you increased the budget this year. There's 90,000 in the athletic budget for the high school. There's 15,000 in for the middle school. We've spent so far to date approximately, let's see, we've spent about, well, we've spent $65,000 already, and we've got encumbrances in for some additional items. Some of the one-off ticket items that we've added this year with shot clock for Seymour Middle School, because basketball games are going to be played there and they need a shot clock. Lane dividers for the high school pool, and new cheerleading uniforms. The other items on the list are recurring. We have them every year. But what we're trying to do is to help the athletic department upgrade, buy new uniforms on a rotational basis, et cetera, to be able to, you know, again, improve the quality of the sports experience for people who are participating in sports. As far as the audit is concerned, we have fulfilled the requests of the auditors. They haven't come up with any adjustments to our financial statements. We are expecting one more visit to button up a few things here and there, but again, like last year, we did our homework in July and August, as I mentioned in a prior board meeting, and it pays off because it enables us to be on offense when it comes to the audit rather than playing defense. So from that point of view, I'm very happy with the way the audit's gone for the BOE.
Thank you. Quick question on the athletic supplies. All of the track equipment that needed to be purchased, that was out of last year's budget, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
let me clarify
Sure,
that,
go ahead.
because that was one of my pet peeves. We were able to totally fund that during the transition with the administrative leave of the associate superintendent. It was totally paid for. And it was the time to do it, and now they're equipped. We're very pleased. In regards with athletics, the added cost basically is with the shot clock, because as you know, they will be starting redoing the floor. And so that was another reason, not just for tournaments, but just in the transition of not knowing exactly when the floor will be ready. Once they start, they say it'll be 4 weeks. So it's just real important in regards, like he explained about the pool situation. That came unexpected, but it's just something we had to do. I think the cameras and the grant, looking at that's going to be a real plus. We'll have Ed Henry also. He's been involved in the beginning with Chatfield, but Mr. Dyer's come up with a really good grant situation of where I think it's around $75,000 with the grant, and working on all new equipment, new camera systems, and these doors should have sensors. I mean, it's 21st century, and you all know that as well as me. So I think the really good things that we've done, they did get new cheerleading uniforms on that cycle of rotation. As far as the athletic assistant director, that was already a part of the existing budget. That wasn't new. The other one just increased due to a lot of duties. So I think overall, with where we're at, except for the cost of facilities and maintenance, we've done pretty well, because there have been several positions in and out that's not been filled, and that's what he just explained.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
You know, I love procurement, right? How are we procuring the emergency pumps and pool system? Are we going out to bid, or is it going to be a bid waiver?
I might get check with Tim. I think we were using an approved state vendor.
Okay, so it's on the state contract?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we try to do that wherever we can,
Yeah.
because it expedites the process.
Sure, and then my other comment is, it's, you know, usually and often proven that emergency repairs are more costly
Yes,
than regular investment and kind of maintaining your assets. So I strongly recommend that board continues to look at that facilities plan and invest in these things, because you're paying probably 30 to 50% more
Oh,
on these
absolutely.
emergency repairs. So
And-
it's really not a good strategy for the long haul.
And that goes to the issue I raised earlier about us looking at this from not a Band-Aid approach, where the cameras, for instance, what came up the other day was, this whole, part of this conversation started when somebody came to me and said, we need to buy $25,000 worth of doors. And I said, well, what are we accomplishing with that? You're gonna replace 25,000 and you're still not gonna know if the doors are closing. You know, so let's look at, if this is a security issue, then let's look at solving the security problem. We can solve the facilities problem also, but I don't have any assurance if the ice is heaving that the door in the back of the building that you didn't change is not the one that's going to be stuck open. And we just can't, I mean, in my opinion, we just can't have an incident in which there was a door that was not closed and we didn't know about it. So what we're working toward here is trying to be able to have an assurance that we have our security resolved. We can fix the mechanical door problems and other things like that as we see fit, but I don't want us to be delusional and hide behind this idea that we've, you know, now solidified our security because we replaced a couple of defective doors, because overall I'm not sure that we really can have a handle at any given point in a day that all of our buildings, our school buildings, are secured and monitored.
So, I mean, any questions for you, Chris? I can hold
No,
my
I'm
comments
good.
till board
I'm good.
member comments. And there's that. I would take a motion to recommend to the full board the approval of the November 8th financial management summary.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. So down under reports, there's grants review dash chairman's report. It
How
probably
that
should-
grants review is just a typo.
Okay, that's what I thought, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Are we gonna do a grants review? Should there be a line item for grants review?
No.
So, just in my chairman comments, I mean, this whole conversation tonight is part of the reason that I don't believe our committee structure works. We have to have a committee that addresses facilities and finances. And part of the facilities committee duty has to be physical school safety. It doesn't make sense to have health and safety when you're combining things like the need for doors and the need for healthy food. It's all under the umbrella of safety, but it just doesn't make logical sense. And if we keep things like safety, facilities, and finances separate, we are never gonna have a holistic approach, and we're never gonna be in a place where we can go and have a serious conversation with the town about establishing a contingency fund. We are by law allowed to have a 2 to 3% fund that carries over year after year, and if we had that, that's exactly what we would have used for this pool emergency. But I also understand that the town isn't gonna entertain that conversation unless we have all our ducks in a row. And with all of these disparate 9 committees, we're never gonna get there. So for future board leadership, as we move, I really implore us to rethink our committee structure, because this is part of the reason that we're fragmented and we're not making progress in being mindful and planful and thoughtful. And my last comment is just going to be that I'm going to miss you dearly. You are like my rock on this committee. I look to you when I'm speaking to get that affirmation that I sound like I know what I'm talking about, and that I'm making sense, and your skills and talents as a former COO of a huge facility and a huge infrastructure is going to be sorting this on this board. And so thank you for your collaboration, your partnership, your inspiration, and your motivation. And I'm going to miss you. Very sweet. Any superintendent comments?
Yes, I would just like to mention that I'd like to recommend to the board, and I will do that as well, to kind of also talk about what you had said about committee structure. It's very important as we move forward that we schedule committee meetings and that we do it once a month. I would suggest the third Monday of each month, committee meetings that, besides the finance, that's held before the board meeting. the 6 committees, it's crucial that we meet with policy and all of those committees, as well as curriculum. In regards to safety, it's our first priority. I want the parents and everyone to know that. There have been a little mechanical issues specifically at Bungie Elementary with one of the back doors. It's an issue that's being addressed, and it will be taken care of. At one point, we did have an issue even here at the middle school last year with the front doors, and that got resolved. It's just important with cameras and doors that everything is working and everything is up to par, and our safety is first. We can't have any open doors. But ongoing, I think it would be nice too that our Director of Safety and Security, Ed Henry, comes and addresses to the board and also through the committee structure, as well as Tim Connors. So I just want to say, as a board, you work very hard. I work very hard as a superintendent. It's just, we've had a lot to deal with the facility issues. I do think that the town will support the swimming pool. First Select Woman has said that, and I think the buy-in will be there. So we're going to continue collaboratively to work together. Like you said, we've got our ducks in a row to make sure this is a facility issue. How are we going to take care of it? Beth, I know your wish was to have a 5-year facility plan. We didn't get there. We did get there with a new website. And I just want to close, and I'll have some other comments to say, but thank you for the outstanding leadership on this finance committee. You and Kristen have made a big difference, and then Chris came on board the second year, different from the first year. So just want to say a big thank you once you joined, and also with the transportation contract that we were able to pursue, and also the attorney contract that happened under this committee. So, you know, you've been busy. Thank you for your financial knowledge.
Thank you.
And what you've done.
Thank you.
All right. Make a motion to adjourn. So moved. Chris, seconded by Beth. All in favor? Okay. And the finance committee meeting is adjourned.
moving.
Jim's coming tonight?
I don't know if Jim's coming. I know Ed is not. So that's 7. All right, good evening. It's 7:32. We're going to get started with the regular monthly meeting in November. If everyone can please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as we do every month, second item is the Seymour Champion Recognitions with Bungay School. Up first. Welcome back.
So we have 2 students we're going to recognize tonight from Buckley School. And I'm going to invite our teachers who nominated them up. So Ms. Tyre and Ms. Silverdick, you can come up as well. So we'll start with Mrs. Tyre. Sure. Who nominated Jackson Williams. Jackson, come on up.
Jackson is a student who demonstrates hard work and determination. Even if something is challenging, he tries his best and he never gives up. He is often seen practicing his reading and math facts when he finishes an assignment early. Jackson is the definition of a hard-working student.
The grandparents are here too. Make sure they come up.
And our next recipient is Grace Ricard. Grace, come on up.
Grace is a role model in our first grade class. She is caring, energetic, smart, and most of all, hardworking. Grace participates and listens attentively during all my lessons. She's able to apply what she learns in her work and always finds time to go above and beyond. Grace is confident and proud of her accomplishments in our class. What I love most about Grace is her personality. She never lets a challenge stop her. She perseveres until she meets her goal. Grace never stops smiling and laughing, even when things can be difficult. Grace brings happiness, laughter, and energy to her class each day. Her peers love having her around and often go to her for advice. Grace is a true example of hard working.
All right, next up, Chatfield Lepresti. Adam Zero, please come on up. Mrs. Rowley, come on up, too.
hard work has been noticed by not only Mrs. Ferguson, but also by his classmates. His hard work deserves to be celebrated. Congratulations.
Thank you for such a kind, passionate son.
Okay, next up, what do we have here? The AP scholars.
Yes,
For the
we're gonna go quite quickly. I just thought tonight, normally, we don't have this on the board agenda. We're gonna be calling the students up, the ones with two with distinction and then the others. Melissa Nelly oversees this AP program as school counselor. She puts in lots of hours above and beyond, overseeing, making sure these kids are registered. And I want to say also a special thank you to the AP teachers and Mr. Floyd and Mr. Lockie for all the work that goes into this program. We're extremely proud, and I know
Yep, item 2C is board member appreciation. So tonight will be Beth Mysteriak's last meeting with us after 4 years. Thank you for everything. You know, you're the person that I usually call to talk me off the ledge of certain things. So thank you for the past, for my 6 years. And if you ever get bored with all this free time, maybe we can have you come back. So big round of applause for Beth. I know you got gifts, so we're gonna take lots of pictures so you're embarrassed. Here you go, hand that down.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. Harmley, you had a wonderful statement about, with the finance. Could you say that again? And then I have some closing words I'd like to say.
Sure. I mentioned at the Finance Committee meeting how wonderful it's been to work with Beth, how she brings a business acumen to this board that I don't think we've seen or had in a long time, and probably won't again. If you don't know, Beth is a former COO of one of our water utilities, and all of that knowledge and passion and leadership she has for business in general, she brought right here to the board to try to improve our processes and our ways of operating, and I'm going to miss you dearly on a friendship level and a mentorship level and a leadership level. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Kristen, I appreciate that.
Okay, I would like to just say a few closing comments. My first encounter with Beth Mysteriak was July 1st, 2021, on a virtual meeting when I was being interviewed to be your future superintendent. Then I got to meet Beth Mysteriak and 6 others on July 13th, 2021. I'll never forget the questions, the 2 questions specifically that Beth asked me in that room next door off our media center here. She was intense. She was so serious about trying to make sure the right candidate would be the superintendent of Seymour Public Schools. And let me tell you something, this lady believes in accountability. She believes in student achievement, and she wants Seymour Public Schools to be the best it can be. And this is a willow tree, little figurine, that says you made a difference. And Beth, have you ever made a difference as a board member for Seymour Public Schools? And thank you for what you've done for our kids and your leadership. And we love you.
So I'll just tell a quick story, because I love stories. I started December of 19, and it was my first meeting, and you just don't know what you're supposed to do. Well, January 2020 came around, and we all know what happened subsequent to that. I'll never forget our February meeting. People were talking about this so-called pandemic and what was going to happen. And Fred Stanek said to us, "Have we ever thought about going remote?" And we all looked at him and laughed. I will never forget that moment. So we went remote, and it was just the last few years were a whirlwind. We dealt with COVID. We dealt with lots of public meetings and lots of parents around COVID. We hired a new superintendent. We hired new legal counsel. So it's been a fun 4 years, but I've made a lot of great friends. I've learned a tremendous amount about the school district. It's a great organization. It's a great group of people. So many on this board have taught me so much about how this engine runs. And I appreciate you all. I thank you for your friendship. I'm not going far. You all know how to get a hold of me. But thank you, and this was lovely. Thank you so much, Dr. Compton.
Thank you for what you
in Maple Street. I'm here to just address an issue about the lack of a late bus in the district. I have 2 students at the middle school. I grew up in a rural town, very similar to Seymour, probably a little more rural. The late bus was a lifeline for me and my friends. My friends played sports. I was often in detention. I needed it to get home. I have 2 sons in the district who moved here 2 years ago. They would love to be involved in activities. However, their mom's in a blue-collar job. They don't really give you time off. I work 45 minutes away. If I'm coming here at 3:45 to pick up my son, I'm not driving all the way back down to Fairfield. So it's a real issue. It's an issue for working parents who are professionals who have jobs they can't get away from. It's an issue for parents in this district who have 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, and they're working shift work, like 2nd shift and 3rd shift. It's an issue for people who have just moved to this district and are new to the town, which there are a lot. We know that from the fact that we've just added a math teacher. So we have more students, they're moving in from out of town. We don't have grandparents to come pick them up. We don't have aunts and uncles to come pick them up. My kid can't do Glee Club. My kid thought about doing cross country, can't do it. We can't pick them up at 3:45. Kids in our neighborhood can't be picked up at 3:45. This school is not accessible by walking. My son cannot walk to school. I know that's not a choice of this board, but it's a choice of a lot of school boards that I think they're starting to regret. My son can't even ride his bike to school, which he would love to do. So they can't do activities after school. It's a lot of students, it's not serving everybody, and it's, actual activities, they're academic enrichment. Not only do they expand the amount of services that can be provided, or they're activities for learning, but they're required for honor roll or honors. They're required for getting into some of the high schools that now have applications. And then later for our students who are in high school, they're required for either getting into a college, getting into a trade school, and sometimes to add to a resume to get a job. So it's a real disservice. I know that there was one before COVID, that's what other parents have told me. I know there are issues with busing, but I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. I'm here to just tell you that it's a real issue, and it's a real issue. So, thank you.
My chairman.
Comment, you're really nice to speak.
I know.
Back and forth.
I can stop you.
That's all right.
Hang out for an hour and a half.
I can give an update, if I
Yeah, please.
I can give an update about the late bus that we're trying to get middle school. We had a meeting with Steve Gardner, she was part of that meeting as well. We talked to him directly about the need. They're in the process of trying to schedule at least one for here. With importance and what a big impact it makes for our middle school students and our parents. He told me they're working on it. They had about 10 bus drivers that had been out with COVID. So I just got another email from him today about an update with a van for preschool, but I will get back with him again tomorrow because he's already supposed to be working on it, okay? And I'll keep you updated as well, okay? Yes.
No, I just wanted to comment on your, kindness and, your, how well you presented yourself there with that argument. Very nice.
All right, any other public comments? Public comment going twice. 3rd call, public comment. Public comment is now closed. Okay, item 4, under the report section. Let's turn it over to our student reps.
Okay, so starting off with Newspaper Club, they just released their Halloween issue, and they're in the works of the 2nd issue of the year. Next we have Kindercats, which just kind of currently started up with the seniors at Seymour High School. They visited the classrooms of Miss Houston and Miss Bourne and worked on getting to know each other. This month we completed an activity that integrates counting, subtracting, reading, and writing based on a favorite children's story, and it had to do around Thanksgiving, so looking at turkeys, them disappearing, they had a lot of fun with it today. For sports, there's a lot for sports. So starting off cross country, their season's over for this year. Lily Moore was named All-NBL, Emma Hartthorne, Jenna Palestro, and Brian Solari were named All-Division teams. Girls soccer, their season is over for them as well. We made it into the NBL tournament but fell short to qualify for states. Sophie Motel made All-NBL, Jillian Keough and Ariana Rivera made All-Copper Division. Girls volleyball, they finished the regular season 20-0. Their run came to an end with the defeat in the finals of the NBL tournament. They entered the state tournament as the number 4 seed in Class M, and they had a home match tonight against Griswold, and they won. And they're moving forward into their next game, which will be held Friday. Boys soccer finished the regular season. Jerry Napolito earned All-NBL, while Joey Carfiello and Indra Faraj earned All-Copper Division. They entered the state tournament as the 23rd seed and played Albert Tech yesterday, and their final score was 3-1. They lost. Football, they're currently 4-4 with 2 regular season games remaining. They will play Naugatuck Friday at 7 home, and they close out the season with Woodland away Wednesday the 22nd at 6:30. Girls swim finished 4th in the NBL. Kylie McCurrier won 2 events and also won league MVP, and Alyssa Torman won 1 event. And then student council, so we were in the works of planning a powder puff game that was going to be held November 17th, but we've kind of come to the decision to put it off a little bit and hold it until the spring, just because it was hard with getting participation from girls, just because a lot of sports are still going on, from dance and volleyball, so we thought to push it back so that we can get as many people possible to be held. But we have a lot of good ideas for that once it comes. We're planning kind of spring, when the winter season of sports ends and spring begins, kind of that golden period when it's a little break for athletes. And we're hoping to be running a food drive before Thanksgiving, collecting items for putting boxes together for families in the school system, but also setting some of that food collected aside to be donated to the Seymour Oxford Food Bank.
Then up next, Hope Club after a successful fundraiser, we will be able to make blankets for the homeless shelter in Waterbury. They will be making cards for veterans residing at Shady Knoll to thank them for their service. We have continued working with Environmental Club, having monthly cleanups to clean up the Seymour High School campus, and we'll be making a donation to the food pantry in town. And during the holiday season, there will be this program called Adopting a Grandparent at Shady Knoll, where essentially we put together packages and cards to give to the grandparents, and there was over 60 elderly who were interested in the program. The Spanish Club decorated sugar skulls and made paper papel picado to celebrate the Day of the Dead. Environmental had our second campus cleanup, which was teamed with Hope Club last Friday, and also they went on a field trip to Maritime Aquarium on the 6th of October and learned about the marine life in Connecticut. Electrothon Car Club is developing a brand new car from scratch. They will also be building their first carbon fiber race car to compete in the composite category this spring, and we'll have 2 new race cars for the spring races. FBLA officers went to a fall leadership conference at the University of Hartford on the 26th of October. We were the only Naugatuck Valley school representing, and there was a lot of good feedbacks from the officers, felt that the conference was informative, and they got to meet a lot of new people and make connections. And then finally, Chemistry Club had their first meeting on Monday. They discussed starting tutoring for all of the various sciences, including AP classes. They talked of prepping for the Chemistry Olympiad, and they talked about the possibility of student lab assistants, which were essentially students who, before school, after school, and during study halls, would be able to help out the various science teachers in preparing for their labs. And that's it.
That was a lot.
Right.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
Really nicely done.
I had one question. I think 2 questions, actually. You mentioned the Thundercats. How many high schoolers do that?
I'd say about like 20 of us. We fill up the whole classroom, so there's 2 classrooms, and we meet twice a month with each of the classrooms. Well, once a month for each classroom, but 2 times for us. But yeah, every kindergartner has a senior as a buddy. So.
And I don't think everybody heard who was the girl from the soccer team that was all in the wall.
It was me.
If I may make a suggestion, and I don't know how much control you guys have over this, but food drives are really good and really important. They are less important than you would think around Thanksgiving time, and more important the rest of the year. So if there's ever a consideration of doing one outside of that time frame, it would actually be more beneficial.
The summertime, like probably July and August.
I learned that
really.
through running a few of my own in my day. So
Any other questions or comments for our student reps?
Through the chair, I just had a comment I just wanted to give some kudos to Caitlin. I think it was Caitlin, yesterday went to go vote, and I think I saw you working at the register, working at the polls. I understand how long of a day that is, and I give you a lot of props for being involved in that civic process, so.
Thank you.
Thank
Makes
you
it
for
to school, right?
doing that.
By like 3 p.m.
And I apologize, Sophia, if you did it as well, but you weren't at where I went to vote, so.
Just so you know, we also had students out at the middle school debate tournament this last weekend from the student council or National Honor Society.
All right. Anyone else? I think you two are the first girls that made eye contact with us as you were speaking out of the student reps that I've remembered.
We got a big shot Olin Dale person. She's
Yes.
confident.
All right, thank you, ladies. School improvement plan, Mr. Freund.
Hopefully I'll make this short and sweet. Before we begin, actually, Mr. Lucky and Mrs. Anelli will be helping do the presentation this evening. The opening slide was, I suggested I had pictures, so I added pictures to because it's basically the same presentation with pictures this year.
I wanted pictures.
Yeah, but also that being, since we presented last year, we received 2 recognitions, one of which is being one of the best high schools according to U.S. News and World Report rankings. We're in the top 100 high schools in the state of Connecticut, and there's over 300 high schools, and include all the different schools that are there. All the schools that are from our economic DERG are either magnet schools or specialized schools. So we're the only public high school within our DERG and below that actually received this designation. Also, we received the bronze medal. I misspoke because dyslexia kicked in. We're actually, the top 4,700 and let me check this.
In the nation.
In the world.
Well, I call it with it globally.
We're in the top
Okay.
4,570 schools globally
Yeah.
for AP performance, which is pretty outstanding. Part of this presentation will be more details given in that regard. And that being said, we're going to start the presentation. We're very proud of our students because it's our students that make this happen. We just provide space for them and let them go. So that being said,
Hello, everyone. We obviously have academic goals. So our first goal is always dealing with our standardized assessments, our AP, our PSATs, and our NGSS and SAT scores. And we really try to take a look at the data, and each of the departments adopted one of the subdomains in one of those assessments as part of their goal for improvement for the year. And then we're going to provide some standardized instruction based on those goals, based on what's needed to do well in these assessments.
next slide.
This next goal addresses the social emotional well-being of our students within our building. And we know that students who are having social emotional issues are those students who have typically the poor attendance or the poor grades. So as we have bi-weekly meetings of our at-risk team, we then look at all of the data from that to then create our at-risk type of students, whether it's academic, or if it's a combination of both. We do a little bit more research to find out who our social and emotional students are. Sometimes we already know who our social and emotional students are based on meeting with our social workers, parent phone calls, referrals, and a lot of times meetings with the nurse in the nurse's office. So what we do is we create action plans for them, whether they're individual or within groups. And with the high school, through Dr. Boyle and our social workers, they have received trauma-based training, and there are 2 groups each semester that our social workers run to work with students who are trauma-based. So in order, we do this to hoping to increase our school performance.
We also can see that we're exploring the potential for peer mediation. Mr. Lucky's kind of being the motivator for that thing. For that, we really, any student who's struggling academically or attendance-wise, we talk about them, we study them, and we've developed plans for them to best meet their needs. And this is continuous, it's ongoing, and the school counseling department is really leading this incentive. This is why Mrs. Anelli's here. And it's really what that department does. course, communicating, you know, I should talk about communicating. I misspeak often enough. But it's a really important goal. And with that, we have a target for our school goal of improving the parent feedback, reporting on whether or not they feel well informed about activities at Seymour High School. Our target for the spring survey is 81%. Last year, I believe it was 79% of the parents responded positively that they're well informed. We do this through developing newsletters, regular communications from teachers to the families at home. I do my news blast. I try to do it every week, but sometimes it's bi-weekly, depending upon the amount of stuff I have to blast out. But it's really important to communicate this information. In fact, this school improvement plan will be communicated in the next news blast, and I felt it was important that you see it first, obviously. And, you know, it's important that the teachers communicate with the families. We encourage our teachers to communicate with families, not only of struggling students, but also students who are doing it very well. So it's nice to hear from a teacher that, hey, your child is doing outstanding, and that's something important that our teachers do. So, targets. So with NGSS and the SATs, we have our spring performance there. So if you look at the NGSS, we have in the spring of 2023, we had 50% of our students achieve what's 3 or above. That would be considered on target. We hope to increase that by 3 percentage points to 53 during the next spring administration of that assessment. The SATs, the percentage of students who had a composite score of 480 or higher in reading was 58% last spring. And again, we hope to push that up to 61% this next spring. And in SAT math, you can see the percent of students with a composite score of 530. We had 35% last spring. We hope to push it up to 50%. Math is interesting because when you look at the math performance compared to reading nationally, math performs at a lower level. And what's interesting too is when you look at those numbers, so considering on track for college readiness for reading, it's a score of 480. But the base score for being considered on track for math is 530. So why is it so much higher than the reading score? I don't know, but it is.
Always been.
It has always been. And what you see, though, you see an appropriate proportion where nationally that math does not as well as reading. And I suspect in part that's due to that discrepancy, which to me, I still don't understand why it's like that, but it is that way. So.
Alrighty, the PSATs, the scores actually just came in a couple of days ago. You'll notice in the fall 2023, there's a drop across the board. This year was the first year of the PSAT digital adaptive test. So essentially it's a baseline assessment now. In the past, kids all did paper or pencil, or when they had to go digital, it did not adapt to their performance. So it's a new way that the kids are taking the assessment for the PSATs. So you will see a drop in numerous scores across the board there. The other concerning thing to us is that we're not going to get item analysis, which we had in previous PSATs, for another 2 years because the test is so new. So in the past, in the PSATs, we would actually get question by question and break it down by categories or what questions we did well in cohorts as a school and whatnot. But this is kind of all backtracked now that they changed the format.
Let me just expand on that. So our bread and butter is taking the results of the PSATs and SATs and doing a question-by-question analysis and identifying questions where our students struggled relative to the entire global group. We're not going to be able to do that for 2 years.
And your staff has excelled in that area of doing the analysis. And I think this is something too that with the changes now, with the new adjustments, not only just PSAT, but the changes with SAT. So I think we've really got to hone in and try to find more prep areas of how to prep these kids and motivate some type of prep
The
program.
SATs for this year, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
is still the standard SAT.
No, it's going to be digital.
Yeah.
It's going to be adaptive, so it will be the same thing. So what they did was when they changed section now, so the reading and writing is an hour long. So the first 30 minutes, everyone's getting the same questions. And then based on how they do, they either get a more challenging test or less rigorous, based on how, and then it'll be the same thing for math. And that's it now, so it's like a 2-hour and 15-minute test with breaks and how it's set up. So we'll get skills and content information, but not question analysis at this time.
So we're looking at this as a new baseline, because the whole new version of the assessment.
Nationally, are those trends the same between fall '22 and fall '23? So nationally, was there a decline like that?
I believe it's similar, I don't have the data.
We'll get the data on it for you because with the new national, with the changes, it's very important to study.
I'll defer to Mrs.
Yeah.
Annapolis.
When they presented and shared the results with us, they didn't include any of the previous years. It's all like brand new. And right now, I will say, we fell below the nation, which we have never done. And either right in line with the state or right below. I think with one subject area, we were right in line, and one subject area, we were right below, which we have never done either before. We've always been like right with the state and above the nation.
So is it right to characterize it and say, we have work to do, but the work isn't as awful as it might look on that
Yes.
slide?
Right.
I'd put a big caveat on that, or maybe even take out that fall 2022, just like the national did.
Well, one of the things too, that's interesting, that I know my school
Because you
councils
can't
have
compare.
been doing, is they've actually been looking at the individual student roster report. And I know that they've been having conversations with some of the kids who honestly should have done much better. So there's some question there as well, you know, how motivated were they?
Well, that's one area, working on motivation and showing them the end results. But another thing is with the change of the test, you can't really compare the 2022 to the new. I mean, it's
always
apples and
hard-
oranges.
Right, it's always hard to compare different students. You're not looking at Melissa and Ellie taking the test in fall '22 and then fall '23. You're always looking at different students typically, and now you're looking at a totally different test.
But now we know it's the time to find good prep programs that can help you and help our teachers and our students.
So with that being said, I think nationally we recognize mathematics as something that's kind of the default across the nation. We're susceptible to that also, obviously, looking at these scores and the previous slide scores. The state recognized that, the state of Connecticut, and they put out grants. So the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, I wrote a $664,000 grant that we got for tutors. So we're bringing out an additional 14 tutors in the district, primarily the middle school and a few more at the high school, just for 9th graders to work specifically on mathematics and a 4-to-1 ratio.
That tutor program, or New Haven just launched a program about tutors, and they've enlisted the United Way and also another nonprofit. So I know we have so many problems getting subs, and that's my concern is, are we going to be able to find tutors? And
So
are there other pathways to get them?
Yeah, the state of Connecticut actually provided us with 10 vendors that they really wanted us to choose from. 3 out of the 10 provided tutoring with human beings being in the classroom. The other 7 or so were all digital. And so we decided to go with Smart Start out of New Haven, actually, who will be providing tutors to come into the buildings on a 4-to-1 ratio. Participate December start, and potentially through May. And then we will reassess and see where we're going. But these math scores do need to go up, and I think we're going to have a pretty good self-study with his tutors and seeing the effect and impact of that.
It's very important in getting this grant.
I don't want to muddy the waters, because I know we're going to wait to hold the questions to the end. But, the tutors, so like what time of day are we talking, and how does that affect?
5 days a week they come in all day.
I mean, I guess, like, so if I have a student in there, or if I'm the student, what am I missing that I'm getting that, or?
So the middle school is going to be pushing, so they're going to be coming into our classrooms and doing breakout sessions. They work on Mr. O'Rourke on the format here. In the high school, we're going to do study halls. So it'll be a different format. There may be a few students at the high school who will actually have to pull out here and there because of the frequency. There's also a minimum frequency of 3 times a week for a minimum of basically 45, 50 minutes at a pop. But we're probably going to exceed that in some ways. If not always.
Why do you think, I'm looking at 9, 10, and 11 reading, that pretty much stay close to the same amount? Why do we see a huge decline in math year after year instead of it going the other way?
Rigor gets, the content gets more difficult is one reason.
It's not the same test that everybody's taking?
Well, the ninth graders take the 8-9 PSAT.
Oh,
The
okay.
10th and 11th graders take the PSAT MSQ.
So the 10th graders should be doing the worst, if you want to
Yeah.
look at it that
Right,
way, because they're really
yeah.
taking the 11th grade test.
I would also suggest that taking a math test digitally is a different animal than doing a reading test digitally.
Absolutely.
And it's a much bigger shift from a student's perspective, and I see both of you being like, yep.
The math test was much different this year than it was last year.
Feel free to be part of this, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I took obviously the 10th grade on paper. I didn't take the 9th grade too.
No, we're not going to talk about that here.
And I took it online, and it's definitely a very different experience. I know my personal PSAT score definitely dropped. It was not as high as I expected it to be, but it definitely was a good experience to be able to take it this year and know that the SAT will be a similar format, and know the amount of work that the students will need to put in with their teachers to determine, to get the scores where they want them to be. But it definitely is a very different beast than previously.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question of you, Caitlin? Mr. Freund, I believe, had mentioned that perhaps motivation was a factor. And not speaking for yourself, but from your peers, did you notice that at all? Do you think that people were less interested in taking the new format?
I know that, at least with many of my peers who are all honor and AP students, a lot of our motivation to the PSAT and SAT in general has slightly, from my point of view, decreased since we've noticed that colleges don't need it as much, as the previous strong pusher was you want a really high SAT score so you can get into those Ivy Leagues, get into those bigger, more known colleges. But as the colleges are less wanting them, I know at least with my score dropping, I was like, oh, it's less of a big deal since I know that my grades and my other academic and out-of-school things will definitely be able to carry me. So I think that might be part of the drop in motivation, because not that they're less needed, but at least from a student's perspective, the SAT has become less important since it's become less important to colleges.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and to add more to what Caitlin had shared, like our community colleges used to look at SAT scores, and if you scored a 510 in the reading and a 530 in math, you were automatically placed at the college level. But since COVID, everyone has gone away from that. Certain colleges are still going to require them and bring them back. The class of 2026 will be so our current juniors will be the ones that they're looking at, and that's what Harvard has said, so we believe other schools are going to follow. But they're, 30% of our schools were already test optional before COVID, and then, so it's such I always say, it's muddy when you're talking about college admissions and testing scores and what's driving all of them, if that's going away. It's going to be important for nurses, teachers, and engineering, because they look at those tests because you have to do tests. So it's different. It's much different.
Sorry, just to follow up, a couple things. One, Caitlin, I guess in general, do they make you take it at a certain time of day? Do they make you? They do? I don't know.
At the start of the day.
Ours was messed up, and then they gave us a different day, and then I wasn't paying attention. So they do tell you when you have to take it.
Well, we determine that because it's, the college board has an 8 o'clock wish start time, but you can go a half hour before, half an hour after.
So they do make you, though.
Yes,
the college
but
board.
the day of that test was typically the national day of that October 11th, the Wednesday right after, I'm gonna screw this up, Columbus Day.
Yes.
And everyone was in, and we had issues with the College Board SAT testing toolkit.
Yes, we did too.
So it was crashing and.
We had to move
and-
it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
But so I'm saying SAT makes you, so I guess my question more towards Caitlin would be do you think that that time frame, you know, like if you were to move it and it was maybe 10 o'clock in the morning or, you know, a little later in the day? Because again, we talk about sleep time, we talk about, you know, we read research that talks about high school students should be starting school later, et cetera. You know, but again, it's mandated at that time. Would that increase motivation, do you think? Or would that affect it? I guess that's a question
It'd
for everybody
probably
else.
feel better and probably would do better. It's just getting the College Board to give that flexibility.
You know, so I mean, I guess even for us, is that something that we could, if they give us a half-hour window, could we start at 8:30 next time, you know? And see, does that change the data even a little bit? I don't know, but.
I think exposure to this test, so when you think about it, our 9th graders took it this year, then they're gonna take it again as 10th graders, take it again as 11th graders, so it'll be the 3rd time's the charm. And it's really hard to compare, let's say, 9th grade to 10th grade to 11th grade, because you're talking about 3 different cohorts of students. And each of them, each cohort has its own unique talents and skills. And our cohorts are so small, we're also subject to a small cohort sensitivity. What that means is you only need a handful of kids to either do really well, to make the whole school look great, or do really poorly to make the school look horrible, where everyone is just doing so, so we're subject to that.
I mean, we can't control what the kid, but we could control the time. We could control what time we administer it based on their feedback. So again,
Just an hour though, Jay.
But-
That's
Yeah.
all. We only get the hour flexibility and,
I know.
I mean, let's face it, SAT started at 8 o'clock in the morning since the beginning of time. You know, I mean,
sad.
Sophia, you had your hand.
Like for the time thing, I feel like for me personally, and I know like others were saying this, it's less on the time, it's like more something like the SAT taking, like you're sitting there like now with the computer just staring at a screen, and then like, oh, you have a little break, and then you're back on looking at a whole different subject, all new question. I feel like it's more like you have to look at like, take a step back and look at the whole SAT taking thing. I think personally it should change. I think it's not like, they have to evolve a little bit with the student, how like, it's a lot just sitting there looking at questions for that amount of time, just like in the same room, it's quiet, you're just, nothing's happening.
One example is that in all the other administrations of the PSAT, there was a defined break in between the assessments. Now that break was defined based on individual students' start time. So you could have a class with 20 kids, and if the first student started 5 minutes before the last student started, their in time, so their 10-minute break starts 5 minutes earlier, but they have to start the next test 5 minutes earlier because they only get 10 minutes. So that was one of our big concerns going into the digital administration.
so just, I mean, no matter what the logistics, no matter what, it's only a 10-minute break.
Regardless, so if I
That's
finish
ridiculous.
5 minutes early, I have to
Who's
start.
running the SAT?
And it's all, and
It's
now
all-
it was like, all the test partner to do was hit start, and then after the kids submitted, there was no like, any other reading of directions, will now take the break, none of that.
I mean, if
For
you
kids
really
to come
think
back
about
from the bathroom, that test started
Yeah.
on them if they
So
were.
they're 5 minutes late now to start their test because they had to go to the bathroom.
And there's no option, because my brain works like hers. It's very hard to switch subject matters, especially in 10 minutes, even at work. Where we had something, and then all of a sudden something else comes, I need a minute.
You have a snack, stretch your legs.
They
a
don't
little bit.
ever offer reading one day, math the
Yeah,
next
like,
day.
why not?
Yeah, like what's back, well, back in the day when I took that long.
It was the dinosaurs from you.
So. You know, you never knew which subtest you were getting. Now it's so prescribed, no matter what. Like I think now it might be even a better setup for that, but their first subtest a few years ago was the reading test for an hour. Then they got a 5-minute break, then they took the writing test for 35 minutes, then a math without a calculator for 25, then they got another break, and then it was math with a calculator for 55. And no matter what, that was always the schedule of the exam, and you couldn't go in and choose, okay, you know what, I like my reading and writing score, I just want to take the math test. No, you can't do it that way. You have to take the test in its entirety, and reading is always first.
With all that being said, we have different levels of support. So obviously we have what our teachers do on a daily basis, meeting before school, meeting after school, meeting with kids in our study hall. But we also have one tutor at the high school outside of the grant.
We have another tutor position. We have not
Another
had
tutor
before.
position open, and we won't be able to fill it yet, but we also then have 2 support classes, one that's focused on mathematics and one more on the ELA side. So students take in conjunction with their regular academics. And we also have
things. The SAT prep course, we targeted students to get in there. We targeted the bubble kids based on PSAT performance. We'd like to expand the SAT and make it an elective for all students. So the kids who are even top performers, if they want to improve their SAT skills, they could take an SAT prep course.
That's what I wanted to see in the schedule this year, but we couldn't get it done yet.
This is not enough time.
We
It's
got
the key,
courses in there, we don't
especially
identify
with the new
students.
changes.
Next step is
I wanted to ask about the high dosage tutoring grant. Is there progress monitoring built in? Is that prescribed how, they're gonna see how kids are responding to the tutoring?
Yeah, the tutoring service is supposed to be able to provide a pre, mid, and a post
Okay.
assessment, and then they will also be recording times met, the frequency, and what kids they work with. They're supposed to stay with the same kids. So that 4-to-1 ratio should always have the same tutor through the entire process.
But there's not like assessment along the way to adjust what they're working on?
So in the middle school, it's going to be push-in. We're going to be using our assessments.
Okay,
In the high school, 9th grade, it's not a pull-out per se, because I'm going to try to use just study halls, but they're going to be using something that they've been using for years. So Smart Start's a company that's been around 15, 20 years. So they're going to be, it's a little bit different format compared to there. So that will be more progress monitoring like they typically do. For us, it's what we do at the middle school.
Nothing further to do. Next one.
Oh, you skipped one. Yeah, target AP and attendance.
All right.
So, on a real positive note, you could see from the 21-22 to the 23 AP, a pretty significant jump. And you could also, if you notice the next row down, you can see the amount of students also have jumped up again that were actually taking it. And this is kind of what got us on the College Board Bronze Award, is we had a pretty good amount of our students actually taking a course, and then they did so well, 74%. Scored 3 or above that. So that was a huge jump for us. You also notice that our attendance is getting better, and we're going to keep trying to work on that. It dropped, obviously, from the year prior from 26.8%, having chronic absenteeism down to 20%, and we're going to continue to work on that. And that's done in a variety of ways, mainly through the guidance department, our identification. We started doing some more home visits than we've done in the past, and that's one of the things that the state's really pushing, is to do more and more home visits. We're meeting with kids on a regular basis. We also have tardy officers who are dealing with that, so it doesn't get progressively worse and turn into a chronic absentee issue, meaning if they're not there more than half a day, they get marked as an absent for the day, which then adds to this data. So the kids are getting a lot more feedback and some of the families, and so we're going to continue to work on our attendance things. So fine. And
Can I
the
just
data.
comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, I'm glad you brought up the, what do you call them? The positions,
The tardy.
Tardy.
tardy officers. I would expect to see a lower target for absenteeism, given the investment that we've made in those officers. Just my 2 cents.
That's right, and also the support of really talking to the students and calling the parents and the interest. I've even looked at, not attendance specifically, but I will, but also those kids that are on the bubble that can really, in passing courses and whatever. I've talked to some of them individually.
Given the
Motivation.
highlight that has been brought to this board over the issue, I would expect to see a stretch goal for that.
Absolutely. I think the data will show that.
And just to follow through the chair, I think also the fact that the state, not only the state, but the Dahlia, the Dahlia Foundation report, talking about that. I mean, we do need to do, and I don't mean you guys in general, but I think we as a body, whole district, need to do more for this. I mean, and no disrespect to anybody, but 20% is still a lot. 20% of, 600 or, that's a high number of people that are considered to be chronically absent. And again, the carrot, what are those carrots? And I understand from what you guys have said about the state taking that out of the hands, so to speak, but, athletics, for example, if kids aren't coming to school, they shouldn't be on the field, and again.
I would agree with you, but I don't think everybody around this table agrees with you in that statement.
Well,
The issues are too diverse, they're too embedded, the way to do it is through guidance and understanding what the root of the issue is. Punitive measures is not going to fix chronic absenteeism. I mean, there are already things in place where if you're not in school the day of a event, you can't participate in the event. If you're not in school on a Friday, you can't do anything over the weekend. I mean, they're there. Chronic absenteeism is a different animal, in my opinion.
So one of the things after professional development, one of the things after professional development, I was working with an artificial intelligence chatbot about improving attendance in the schools. And one of the chatbot came back, we discussed, as weird as that sounds, because it wasn't really a discussion, it was typing, was, surveying these kids. So,
Now getting to the root of the
right,
problem,
so it's find out why,
psychological
right,
needs.
the whys. So it actually, working with it, we developed, the chatbot and I developed a survey to send to the parents of students who are absent excessively. So you get to the root of the matter, and I still have a couple versions of that, but it's our plan to start distributing that survey to families digitally, so they could do it, and then we could get that information back, to use that information to help us drop that number as well.
And sorry, through the chair, if I just want to clarify. I totally understand that for some people, it is, a serious thing, but I also think that some people, and again, I don't think necessarily just here, but people take advantage in the sense that, coming in late and, so they may be late significantly, and that also isn't right of chronic.
Well, I will have to say
A lot of
this.
tardies and.
Something happened this year, I think something changed in the water, and you could tell me this is the first year in the 20 or so years I've been at Seymour High School, that come 7:30, the line of cars is gone.
Oh, well, that's.
Mr. Freund, I wanted to say that during this session tonight because I
Thank you.
pulled out of the school, out of the park, out of the school, and it was 7:27, and there was nobody in the line. And I had this moment of, where am I, and what is happening right now?
Well, they're certainly not on the bus.
Well, no, actually, there
Maybe
are
they're
more
just not
kids on
coming,
the bus this
maybe
year.
they're not
Maybe
coming
they're
at
not
all.
coming to school.
Right, then maybe they're just absent, so that's why the line is.
No, I
They're
think,
getting more feedback and more frequency getting feedback of what they're doing, because there's 5 separate people working on 600 kids as opposed to 1.
but
So it's a reinforcement of those continuous meetings, and yes, there are some consequences that come with some of that. And that's, I think, where you're starting to see.
one of the things that they see with their students as well, and actually the hall pass system, the e-hall pass system has been very helpful too, is I've actually seen kids rush. So they know they're coming to school. I actually have seen kids jog from their car to get to school on time, right? You know what I'm talking about? I've never seen that before. I'm like, man, this something's going on.
Mr. Luck, you had said the state is pushing for home visits.
Yeah, so there's a couple of new reports that are out in the state of Connecticut, and their top thing is home visits. And if you really read the report, they want you to have staff members be having coffee with parents, at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and doing these things over and over and over.
We need to set up
Meeting in the grocery store.
Yeah, we need to set up a tutoring center in the grocery store, so when the parents are shopping, the kids can get tutors.
But this is what the state
Soccer game,
is
softball.
putting in their
Does the
report
state
as
give
effective
any
means.
guidance on how they want us to pay for that?
So there,
Program called LEAP.
yeah, it's called LEAP. There was grant funding, but we pretty much didn't qualify.
That's what I figured. Okay, moving on.
All
Frank,
right, so next slide. So, this is actually, we put this up today, because this is when the realization is, we scored a bronze. And it's not like Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. We're pretty happy with that bronze, but in one area, and I'm gonna turn this over to Mrs. Anelli, for the college optimization, we were platinum. And one of the 3 areas that they look at, and this is a global sense. So, Melissa, if you would.
So if you look at this overall, I wouldn't look at this and say we're bronze, but it's wherever we hit the lowest is what our designation is. So because we didn't have more than 50% of our graduating class last year, didn't take an AP exam, we had 47%. So we're bronze. If you look at college credit of those students that took it, so it's the graduating class, 32% of them have earned at least 1 college credit, or 3 credits for 1 college credit.
From AP.
From AP, just from AP, not dual enrollment. And then college optimization, when we talk about that, it's how are we going to Let me read it, I gotta put on my.
Put on your glasses. It's 5 or more AP exams.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
our
these are the
students
kids
are
that have to start taking APs as sophomores. And they don't do 6 or more.
So as, yeah, so as they take it as 10th graders, it's showing that they have a real buy-in to be college ready, and they will continue to buy into the AP program or dual enrollment classes.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't take into account dual enrollment classes, all our UConn kids, all the kids that are taking all of our CAD courses, introduction to manufacturing, the field credit, Lusitanic, our TQ post kids, our kids are getting UB credit, this has nothing to do with that. So they're only concerned with the APs. So if you took all that into account, we'd probably be fine across the board. That's my guess.
We have one student who's a freshman at, I believe, Quinnipiac, and he already has 40 college credits this year, which is technically like was our boy last year. But when we look at this, and this is AP, and it depends on how you feel about the AP program and college board, how they are. It's these awards that they think are gonna get people talking and the state talking and things like that. So when we talk about that we are in the top 30%, it includes Canada, and it includes any school with American programs. So it's like on the Army bases and Navy, the defense bases, and so we scored within the top 30%.
So do we
And it
get,
includes everything, private schools, like I was pulling out the Connecticut to see where we would fit with that and who had bronze, and TAP was on there, John Hopkins was on there, you know, so.
So that we did as well as Tappan, John?
I didn't really study it that well to see if they were silver or platinum or bronze,
But we still did,
Right.
but we still did well. We still did.
so do we get a bronze acorn, or do we get
No, we're probably
any
gonna
money
get,
for this?
we're gonna get a poster. And we're
We'll
gonna
get a
Oh, yeah, it's
poster
$800
recognition.
for the poster.
Yes.
No,
We gotta pay for
that
it?
poster comes for free. No, the college, this one comes for free. It's paper.
The other one you have to
The other
pay
one's
for.
like $800.
$12,370-something last year. This year it's gonna cost us $15,000.
No.
The kids really get paid for
Yeah,
that.
no, the college, that's, so the AP exams.
Wait, the kids pay for the test? We don't pay for the kids' test?
If you're free and reduced lunch, you do not pay. If you're not, you do pay.
But we, as a district, we don't pay.
No.
So even though we're really, this is a big, I mean, we're really pushing, we're highlighting it, we're trouting it. We don't support, I'm not cutting, I'm just saying.
Budget planning
You
is
know,
coming
I
up.
still don't have a big.
I know. You know, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, that's.
All right, so,
Oh, shoot.
next time. Okay, quicker. Come on, quicker. All right, so one of the things that's important is that the board, and we kind of included this last year in our presentation, but Seymour right now is going through a pretty significant demographic change. And we have to take this into consideration when we also look at our student performance. What you see right here, the number of percentage of students who receive free or reduced lunches in the last 3 years has increased to 45.4% of our student population. The percentage of students with disabilities was 12%, now it's up to 15.1%, or it was last year. That equates to, we went from 74 special education students to 92. This is according to state data, State Department of Education. As far as the English language learners, we're not the challenge isn't as great for us as it is the elementary
It's
schools.
our elementary.
But we've grown up, we have now 2.1% of our student populations are English language learners. Those categories, unfortunately, when you look at the global sense of their performance, typically have a negative impact on school performance. And these populations are growing. And, you know, when I was looking at this, I looked at the data for all of our schools as well as the state, and that's universal in all the Seymour schools as well as the entire state of Connecticut. This is what's happening with our population.
It changes, it's diversity, and it's throughout the country.
And during this time, you can see that the certified staff, we've decreased a little bit. These are actual classroom teachers, not including school counselors, social workers. Our suspension rate is up, last year was up to 11.9% of students who received at least one ISS. And overall, the student population has decreased to 608. This is last year.
The in-school, out-of-school suspension, is that because we're no longer given detentions?
Oh, we did.
Oh, we happens.
Has the
Detentions on
number of
Tuesdays and
detentions reduced and instead we're giving in-school suspension?
There's detentions on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That's not really answering my
Well,
question.
the kids don't serve detentions,
Oh, okay,
so they
thank
end
you.
up getting put in.
Some of them
jail.
will go, and then when they don't go, it's the next person back.
Is that because they don't have a bus? Is that, I mean, do some of them not stay? No, I'm being serious, sir.
You guys don't know
Through the chair, I'm being serious. Do some of the kids not stay because they don't have a bus to transport them? I mean, because I think it is ludicrous that we cannot provide after-school transportation.
And we can't even
I mean,
provide an
that's-
hour of tutoring after school. because-
Right, and you know what, and shame on the bus company, and shame for, they touted a big contract that they had, and they gave us, and they can't provide after-school transportation? That is shameful.
And it's, for
And I
us,
hope that the guy hears me say that, because I'll send him an email myself and tell him, you know, that, I mean, the way that the guy said it, all the opportunities that they're not getting because they don't have transportation, and the bus they can't find somebody?
and I would actually say that it has more of a negative impact on the middle school than the high school. I mean, because at least our kids, either the parents are old enough or the parents say walk home, or the parent, like, we have students that are hanging around school till, 3:30, 4 in the afternoon waiting to get picked up.
But they're not see, well, that's another, I don't like that statement though, because then who's supervising them? You know what I mean? Like at our
But
school,
again, they're
kids
supposed
have to be
leave.
supervised all the time. I mean, if I am a coach of sport, I can't leave until those kids are picked up.
Yeah, but it's a public place. I mean, a kid
Kids
could go
can come
home and
back.
come back.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah,
That
right.
happens too.
I mean,
They
Well,
come
there,
back.
but not at our place, they can't, because they live in Branford.
Right, but I'm just saying, in our school, I mean, I think it's a nice thing that kids are hanging out at school afterwards. That's okay with me. Like, I just want to raise, Chris, to your point, I don't know that those spring, I mean, the spring ISS and out-of-school suspension, I mean, that was right when we came back to school full-time from COVID. So I would imagine that there were not a lot of suspensions being earned or given out. That was when we just came back full-time.
We're-
So it's probably not a great comparison.
I wouldn't be,
They were running half capacity in the building.
Yeah.
It was that hybrid schedule.
if I may, I also wouldn't be surprised if the tardy officers also help us reduce the percent of students in ISS, because they are the ones who supervise the detentions now. And they're the ones creating the relationships with the students now at that level, and the families, and the ones placing the calls. So that their presence might also have a positive impact in that regard. You know what I mean by positive? Decrease percentage number. All right.
I would also just comment, I'm surprised that the ELL percentage is as low as it is. And we know that it is larger in the elementary school. So as you're planning, I know there's a professional development plan, but as you're thinking about teacher capacity in the coming years, be thinking about how are you preparing.
My
for-
wife is an ELL teacher, and she tells me everything. So, yeah, I'm
Don't
very
they
well
sort of
versed in
earn-
that. I've been an advocate for the population.
Don't they sort of, I don't know what the word, they, I can't speak.
So what happens is.
They don't last as English learners,
So
English
when-
language
when
learners
you
once
address
they've learned
yeah.
English.
That's right.
English language learning is more easily addressed when they're young.
That's right, and
Because their
we're,
ability to learn is so much, they're like more malleable, they're more sponge-like.
that's when and that's why with the new states, with the requirements and making sure with a certain enrollment, and, we've met that now at Chatfield or Presti with 0.5, a half a teacher, but I can tell you on a long range of planning, budget-wise, this is going to be one of our biggest areas,
Yeah, one of the.
growth and budget.
And they test out, basically, receiving services. In our experience, once they get to high school, they don't test out. And they just don't. We have kids who are ELL students who are taking advanced placement courses and doing well, and scoring 3 or above, that can't test out. They just don't. And that's fairly typical globally. Most of the English language learning growth is in the elementary.
Okay, let's
All right.
move on.
Yeah, I'll move on.
Just a new piece of information is to actually take out SDE, because this is just local.
Yeah.
So I started asking our staff to keep track of new students, kind of where they're coming from, what's going on with them, so we can get a better handle. So up until this point, up until today, we've had 36 new students this year, 18 of which have come from either Alliance, Opportunity, or Priority District or New York City. we know what that is, or do you want to explain those?
I think it's amusing that you've put New York City in with a Lions
Lions
opportunity
priority.
It's
I don't
just my
know.
experience and the students.
I know the difference between priority alliance. What's opportunity?
So they divided the state into 3 different categories. The Alliance is done every 5 years, and it's usually the worst of between 33 and 37 performing districts. The Opportunity is about the worst 15, but they do it every year. And the Priority is the worst 10, but they do it every year. So they come up with 3 different categories. But so half of the new students that we're getting are coming from districts where typically students are not doing as well as we would normally do in Seymour. We've had 4 kids come back that have either dropped out previously from Seymour or went to homeschooling and come back. There's issues that can happen with that. We've had 2 kids come back that were Seymour kids that were in the tech ed system, and they're out of there, and usually that's not the best case scenarios when they come back to us. We've had 4 new students come, either immigrants or foreign exchange students come, with transcripts from overseas. So that's the increase in the ELL population, and that's a whole other bucket of things that we need to help kids with. And then out of all of these, out of the 36, 9 were special ed or 504, actually it was 8 special ed and 1 504. So basically 1/4 of the new students came in with IEPs or a 504. This is just information we're going to keep tracking over the years, and I'll keep presenting to you. This is the first time that we've really done it this in depth. And I think it's helpful just to see how quick we're changing.
I wonder if the returning dropouts count against us twice for the cohort graduation rate. They might.
But that is, through the chair, that last number there at the bottom and, you know, the number that you had on the last slide about the staff changes is important to track too. You know, so you had an increase of 9, and yet the staff change was, you know.
For the classroom, to bring
18
classroom staff.
increase in special ed and
So
9
the general
adults.
education staff.
Yeah, we have paraprofessionals, position, I think we have 3 openings that we can't fill.
We can't fill.
Right, but
For the help.
again, when we come to talk about budget time, you know, that's the data that we need to use to support that. It's
Showing the need.
right, the need has increased. I mean, you have, the staff change did not, but that's 9 students or 9, you know.
What I really need to do is I didn't put on the slide is the special ed staff. Because over the last few years, we haven't had any significant changes. We have growth in population.
Do you have students that also came back from, like previous Seymour students that attended private high schools and then returned?
We had 1.
1. That would be interesting to track as well, because of all the opportunities we offer.
Sure, I got it. We'll put it on there.
Did you have any, sorry, any students with this, that received the seal of biliteracy?
It came with a seal.
No, that, you know, as part of the graduation.
That diploma, we had none.
No. I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but close. You know, that's, again, in the future, as we talk about the MLLs, you know, that's a data piece I'd like to see. Because that's, you know, that's an accomplishment.
It is.
That should be celebrated.
This is the same slide that was on the presentation last year, and it's because the 2023 cohort graduation data has not been available. It basically represents the data that you've seen on the previous 2 slides with the population of students. This was based on the graduating class of 2022. We had 156 graduates. I don't know if I have to, you've seen, this is the same slide you've seen this last year, but it really talks about the, you know, we talked about a portrait of a graduate, what's a portrait of a
Shows you the
Seymour?
breakdown.
The breakdown is changing. Our
Yes.
fastest growing population right now is that of the Hispanic population, which is not bad. It's good to have diversity, but we also have to be prepared for that. And then now you can ask us questions.
And next year, we'll remember to say whole questions to you.
We almost got there. Somebody opened up the
Can of worms.
No, I'm just kidding. Can I ask one more last question through the chair? Literally follow up to that last slide that you had was, you know, what happens next? I can't think of the word there.
Well, how are we
Post.
going to?
What?
So I have the question that I had, and it would be posed to the Board of Education and the superintendent. Is,
Next
what are
steps.
we going to do next?
What are our
to
next
prepare for
steps?
our tomorrow.
Oh, but I meant for the kid. What's that word with the, you know, for after the kids graduate, and then it's like a little time, what do you call that, where they do a little survey, and you see like, where are they?
Where are they now?
Yeah, what do you call that though? Isn't there
It's
a
called
name?
the Where Are They Now?
Post-secondary.
Yeah,
it's
post-secondary,
transit.
thank you, that's what I was
Yes.
thinking.
Right, so because Power School bought Navient, correct, not the other way around?
Yes.
The way they are tracking this now is through a different report that I was working with our new secretary today to see, like, it said that we had 24% of our last year's graduates were unknown where they were going. But if you looked at the real outcome detail, it might have had UConn, it might have had Housatonic, it might have had Elder, but it was pulling from some other area that we went back and found where it was pulling from. So this new secretary is gonna update all of this for us. So hopefully, if that's where it's pulling from now with the PSIS data through Powers and how these.
How they talk.
Correlation.
Yes, thank you for
But
that.
as we continue to build that alumni group, it'd be interesting to see, you know, we look at the graduation rate, and then what happens a year, you know, like, if you looked at that, say, even just a year out, just to
Yeah.
see.
That's all, folks.
It's not really a question, it's more of a request, and I'm not suggesting to put goals against it, but one of the numbers I'd love to see, and you've shared them before, is the number of students who participate in extracurricular clubs and who participate in sports, because I know it's a really high rate, and I think it's something to be really proud of.
It truly is. Last year, we had 200 kids that were participating in sports. And there's a correlation, research shows that those kids that are involved with extracurriculars, specifically sports and others, that it shows academic achievement, that they do better because they feel like they're a part of the school and in such a way of ownership, and they love wearing those uniforms. But, I mean, it truly, research shows.
At tonight's volleyball game, we had the dance team there, we had the cheer squad there, we had a rockin' student section there, and we had a lot of teachers and one mom of a teacher, Susan Nelly's mother there.
Also, on a happy note, both the middle school and the high school did extremely well Saturday. Mr. Catlin, could you just stand up real quickly and just say Seymour High School,
By the way,
what
Barbara's
they,
awesome.
what the middle school accomplished?
We hosted the Connecticut Middle School Great League tournament this past Saturday. 91 teams here, 60 of which were our division. We had 2 teams enter. Both our teams went undefeated. One of our teams finished number 1 overall out of the 91 teams that were registered, and one of our students was the top scoring individual speaker out of 91 times 3, so 273 debaters that were here. We scored at the top, at the absolute top. So, thank you for letting us host it here, and
And shout out to that photo where Mr. Callen's a saint at the high school. He came in to fill temporarily our business position, and he's doing an awesome job in there.
He helped us supervise the homecoming dance, and he helped us with the volleyball game, cheering on our kids. So although he's a retired Seymour teacher, now just helping us fill in a position, he's the man. Thank you, Harvey.
enjoying every minute of it.
All right, any other questions for the high school? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, great job. Thank you.
Where you girls going?
I have to work up at 6 a.m. to jump.
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna push through. No more questions.
No, we're gonna go
Item
fast.
5, we have the consent agenda.
Let's roll.
What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, motion by
Second?
Ms. Bruno, second by Stefan. Any questions, discussions? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 700. Item 7, Board of Ed meeting schedule. I know we have,
Excuse me,
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hatfield's not here, so it would
600, I'm sorry. I know we had talked about having a couple of drafts on here, the difference between the first one and the second one. We have some earlier start times, and it looks like on this second one, we're bouncing around between schools, which I think is a great idea. Derek probably won't be a fan of that one.
Well, we thought only 3 times, so that way you could visit Bungie, Chatfield, and the high school. Just 3 times.
And it looks like on the second
We can
draft,
change any of these times of where you would be at what school, but at least just go 3 times.
so it looks like finance would start at 6:30. Regular meeting would start at 7. Now, I see some athletic and things sprinkled in here. Did we want to maybe go back and add the other committees if we were going to start?
Oh, you can talk about that, but I think right now, just focus on whether you want to meet at 7 or 7:30. And if you said, I think most of you are saying you're willing to go to 3 different, go to the 3 other schools once a year. But do you want to come at 7 or 7:30?
7's fine with me. I don't care anymore.
I am totally on board with the 6:30 to 7, 6:30 and 7.
I can't find where we are on the agenda. Is there a link? Am I on the wrong agenda? I don't have a link.
7A?
If I may, and this is only tangentially related, it's pretty obvious. I mean, we look at the time that we get to discuss and possible action, right, which is why we're here, realistically, and it's 9 o'clock right now. That, and this is pretty typical for the time that we actually get to the meat and potatoes of our agendas. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I really think we need to think about ways to speed this thing up. And whether we start at 7 or 7:30, I don't particularly care, but I'm sure people are not thrilled about getting home at 11 o'clock at night.
And then just to point out, I don't know how everybody felt about tonight, having it on a Wednesday, but that is the same that it looks like we're doing next year. I know we used to move it to the following Monday.
I think it gets too confusing, though. I think after the election, I think we should just keep it on the Wednesday in November, just to.
I think it's fine. The only other, we rarely ever have any issue for it, but the Board of Selectmen persons meets at the same time as us today. Something to think about, but I don't think it's
Once a
really
year,
an issue.
though, right? So.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve draft 2 of the 24-25 calendar.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jay, second by Stefan.
Just one more point of discussion. I mean, we had a conversation during the Finance Committee meeting about a potential to rethink our committee structure. So that won't happen until December. We won't vote on anything until January. So I understand that there's, I guess, technically what we could do, I guess, if we did decide to go to broaden the mission of reduce the amount of committees, broaden their charge. I guess we could still call it the Finance Committee and just buck it under our other stuff. So I'm fine. I don't know that we should have the Athletic Committee meeting on there. It feels kind of random. Why are the 2
I think
athletic
that's
committee
back
meetings
the one that they have before you go back to school, right?
Yeah. But we could take it out, right? I mean, I think it just, so I guess I'll amend my motion to remove the Athletic Committee, can you spell that? No, I just want to make sure. The Athletic Committee meeting for August 5th.
That's the only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll amend my
That'll be
second.
better.
All right, anything else?
I mean, sorry,
Yep.
just even with the Finance Committee, I think it is sometimes tough, though. You guys meet right before, it's nice, but then, is that enough turnaround? I don't know.
And something too, we might could do recognition before Board of Ed, just to those that want to come and just, we'll work on how we can minimize the time frame. We'll make that better.
Acknowledging that I've seconded the motion already, does it make sense to set the Finance Committee's schedule right now at all? does it make sense that we have one subcommittee that has a set schedule and all the others are done ad hoc? Does that not give the finance committee enough flexibility to do what they need to do? I defer to the finance committee.
We're totally fine. We've always been fine with that. I don't think we've ever run out of time except for maybe once in a 2-year period. So I like the cadence of it. I like the predictability of it.
That's great. That's
I don't
fine.
know if I'll be on the committee.
That-
All right.
That's fine with me.
For whatever it's worth.
Because curriculum was before it ran over, so it might not
Yeah,
have been
curriculum with a
finance's
half
fault.
an hour, that's not gonna work.
All right, anything else? So we have to vote twice. Vote on the amended motion, so all those in favor? Opposed? And now vote on the new amended motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Doesn't matter. Okay, Switzerland. So that passes 6-0-1.
I think the new earlier time will help everybody, and we expedite the meeting get down to what were discussion items.
Yep, all right. Item 7B, donation.
Make a motion to accept the donation of Mr. Valentin Katrashenko, who would like to donate the remainder of his two-maker tools, which include several precision vices, block calipers, chucks, and bits at Seymour Public Schools, and ask the Board of Education Director Superintendent to determine the place of this donation.
Motion by Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Beth. Any other discussion? And I'm assuming this would be going to the high school, right?
Yes, we'll take care of it. Just move on here.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed?
Sorry about that. Shouldn't have said that.
That's okay. That's your inner monologue coming out. So that passes 7. What's that?
No.
7-0.
Pun.
Item 7B2, we have another donation of mini pumpkins.
Which appears to have already happened. So I would like to make a motion to thank and acknowledge kindergarten teacher Miss Kayla Hurley for the 100 mini pumpkins on behalf of the board and the superintendent, to acknowledge and thank her for that donation.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Harling, second by Ms. Deriak. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
You are hereby directed, Madam Superintendent.
We're trying to move on. Item C, substitute teacher pay.
I'd like for you to look at it tonight. I don't want to get into deep discussion, but study the chart. Look at what other places are paying. It's something I'd really like to bring up in December. It's another thing for the budget, but we really need to try to make some kind of change here in the middle of the year. The highest one was Milford, $140. So just look, I had Leanne dig into the minutes back in 2016 was the last time where it was $115. And we really need to make a change on the substitute pay. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk more about it next month.
And when we do talk about it, I think it might be helpful for everybody to know how many teachers we're paying to take their preps.
Yes,
Because
yes.
if you have 3 of those teachers taking 3 periods, you're already paying more than the sub.
Exactly, and Mr. Bucci's already shared those numbers with me, and also the situation that we really need to look at permanent subs like we wanted to do in the budget last year, so that needs to be another budget situation. We need to look at our bucket list and why. So let's do, if we can.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, sorry. I'm through the chair. I am definitely in favor of this, but I, again, will caution to ask that if we are going to approve something like that, then we need to see where that bucket's going to be taken from. You know, if we're going to increase the pay for the rest of the year, where's that money going to be taken from?
Right.
And,
Go ahead, when you're done.
oh,
I didn't
no,
mean to
no. That's, I didn't know if you were going to add to help my statement. But.
I was just gonna say, we don't need to take it from anywhere, because the reality is we don't spend our substitute money because we can't get substitutes. So it's actually not that big of a deal, but it does matter for planning forward.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, then we'd be able to get them. But even if we decided to do it this year, it's not gonna hurt our budget because we end up with a surplus and substitute because we can't find them.
But that money then gets spent somewhere else. You know, I mean, I understand, but we have to continue to try to track the money, and when we make decisions like this, without seeing where it comes from, then it causes problems later, you know, where people are saying that we don't, you know, if we have a surplus, then we hide money and we.
I've been contemplating that quite a lot because I had said earlier this year, like, we need to do transfers and stuff, but the reality is, I mean, Mr. Bucci and I haven't had a conversation about that. At the end of the day, we're tracking those numbers monthly.
Yes,
And we
we are.
clearly see what's going down. So, so I think the one thing that maybe we can do is be more explicit about unexpected expenses and have them documented somehow. But in terms of like taking from here for there, to do that mid-year, like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, so I believe in the documentation of that, but I'm not really sure that it makes sense to start transferring across line items.
I think once we look at how many teachers are being paid $47 to teach on their prep,
You'll see that.
we're already spending
Yeah.
more than
We
what
we really are, and I think just showing you just to print out specifically what was in that line item and so forth. It'll help.
When we pay our teachers, does that money come out of the substitute line item, or does it come out of certified staff, just that all-in bucket of money?
So the line item for substitute.
Even when we pay the teachers?
Yeah, you want to speak to that, Mr. Bucci?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So it's just taken from
I
there.
That's right. I just think, go ahead, do you want to go out there for a second?
I just want to, you know, as we think about and we go through the budget process and we have those tough conversations, we cut out the permanent subs, but we ended adding back in, you know, in-school suspension monitor. We ended up adding back in, you know, the tardy officers. So I think we really need to be thinking proactively as we're planning the budget and having a sub in front of kids and someone in classrooms versus on the other end dealing with consequences for behavior or addressing problems versus, you know, having proactive solutions. I think we need to be able to sell that and talk about it and justify it and make, if we have to make cuts, to make cuts carefully and be thinking about what is supportive in teaching and learning.
Yeah, it's important. That's why the needs assessment and looking at the data and showing, you know, what we've done and, you know, what needs to be done and what the priorities are.
And to share through to Mrs. Bruno's point, you know, if we're more transparent now, again, I'm not saying that we're not transparent, but if it's easier to track and follow, maybe that will pay off later during the budget process and we won't have to get to the third step of making some of those more challenging cuts. Again, I'm just trying to make, because even I have a hard time saying, you know, if somebody says to me, hey, you know, you just increased the subline $50, where's that money coming from? I can't answer that question. When somebody says it to me on the street, and I have a hard time with
But put it in light of your home budget. My furnace broke. Where is that money gonna come from? At this moment in time, I have no freaking idea, but I know I'm gonna pull a little bit from my grocery moving forward. I know I'm gonna turn my lights off and make my electricity go down. So there's no like one answer that then you're gonna take money out of one account and move it to another. So it is about transparency.
But I also.
All right, we're getting
I
off
also-
topic here.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Well,
'cause it's-
We're not really getting off topic though,
No, we're
because
not
it's a
really
budget
getting off topic.
discussion.
We're
It's a
not
budget
making-
conversation though.
But we're
And
not
when the
making-
parent says that people are working 2 or 3 jobs,
But
we're
we're
talking
not
about $50 here,
talking about-
$50 there, we just spend it like water, we're not getting off topic. Because that's
All
what the
we
parent
have
said.
to do
The
is
topic
say
right
we'd
now
like
is
to
And we're
know.
not,
teacher
but
rate
it's
of
still,
pay.
it's still money. We
But we're not
continue.
talking about budget tonight, we're talking about substitute teacher pay. So
So then we should
please in
keep it the same?
December, let's make sure we have.
We'll have the
finances.
figures for you and show you exactly what's been spent, and that's what you deserve to see.
You know,
And
5
then
minutes where
exactly
everybody's
the chart.
complaining that the meetings are too long. We go on and on and on about topics, we don't know when to stop. So let's move on to
This
item
is
D.
an important topic though. I understand if it might not be.
No, I
No,
guess my contributions
I
are not working
understand.
here.
But it's,
So I appreciate
we're
that.
talking about the substitute teacher pay.
It's still money in the budget.
It
We're
is.
still talking about money in the budget.
But we're not
So,
making a
I'm
decision
sorry,
on this
Mr.
tonight.
Sorry, my contributions are not worthwhile for your time.
All right, item D, the new position in the central office, payroll benefits. This is, I'm assuming, for one of
Yes, I would like, there's two job descriptions here. I wrote a paragraph, if you look at the handout that I've included, that's in your board packet, but also your paper handout. I did an explanation. I would first of all like to say just a big special thank you to Lisa Snow and what she has done. Her contribution, both her and Kathy, have been phenomenal. But Lisa informed us that she's going to be retiring at the end of February, which you saw a resignation note. This woman has had dedication above and beyond the call of duty. Only when she had knee surgery was she ever out and doing the payroll. She started here, I think, in 1995. She started doing payroll in 2009. This consists of every 2 weeks. She's always got to be on the job to do the payroll. And I just want to send out a big special thank you to Lisa and what she's done for this district and dedication. Like I said, it's just very, it's a very busy, tough job. It's ongoing. It's a very important job. And with the business office, I think moving forward, Mr. Bucci and I discussed this as well as Chris Pelosi. We put together a new job description. We compared other school districts throughout Connecticut. There's a lot of them that are called payroll benefit specialists. You can look at different websites, but this is what we've put together. Both of these jobs would not be a part of the union. They've currently been in the union. It's a situation to where, and that was years ago, and where they were, I don't know how many, 25 years back, I'm not sure the history. They're truly not secretary, bookkeepers. They're basically in positions where they deal with salaries, they deal with benefits, they deal with confidential stuff. So in checking and looking at other places, so many noted that these positions were not in the union. And this is the time now, these wonderful ladies are retiring, and it's the time now to make a change. Kathy has informed us verbally that she will be retiring in August of 2024 again. I'm telling you, both of these ladies, what they have done, Kathy in accounts payable, there was a time when both of these women basically kept the system going. And everybody needs to know that behind the scenes during lots of transitions when there was not a permanent business manager and so forth. So I just want to note that for the record. Like I said, exemplary jobs on both of their parts. Kathy's position basically overarches accounts payable. I've worked with Mr. Bucci and Mr. Pelosi. Most places have what's called accounting supervisor. There are different titles, different whatever. So when you see the pay recommendations here, it can vary. The salary ranges, it's not that much difference in what they're getting now. Basically, the payroll could vary from $45,000 to $55,000. The accounting supervisor could be $60,000 to $70,000. It'll be based upon their experience. If they've not had much experience, they'll start the lowest amount. But it's very important with the accounting part, as an accounting supervisor and supporting Mr. Bucci, that this person has an accounting or finance background if at all possible, because it's what people are hiring, if they can find them. So we at least need to reach out and see. So we just want to create the positions. We're in the process now of creating new job descriptions for everybody. A lot of them haven't been changed, only if there was a new position or a change. So this is currently where we are. It's what we're recommending. Like I said, these two women have devoted their many years of their service to the school system, and they truly will be missed. But we knew Kathy was going to retire. She even said last year, and then Lisa said, I'll probably go out about the same time Kathy does. But she's got a new grandbaby, and she wants to move on. Her husband's retired.
you looking for a motion on this tonight?
I would like to, on the one specifically, because we need to get it posted so we can get somebody that can work with Lisa for December, January, February, because she'll be leaving.
So, and Lisa's would be the payroll benefits one.
Yeah, yes.
So I have a question about that, because one of the things that sticks out to me, and I don't think we've done this before, was, and no offense to Sal, but that these two positions will be reporting to the business manager versus you.
Well, in the end, they technically, they report to the business manager, and then all employees and other designated responsibilities can be assigned by the superintendent. But bottom line is, it's just, they work under the umbrella of the finance. But they're also, any employee, any other assigned duties at the superintendent, that is a clause that should be an accepted thing. Nobody would ask something that wouldn't be appropriate, but, bottom line is, and,
What's your question, Chris?
And I'm just
He was just
wondering,
wondering
that,
with the
that's
wording.
not something we've done before.
Wait, I'm very confused. Who do these individuals, who do these positions
But
report to now?
they're in.
they're
the-
technically under the business office. I have a job description of the one, I can show you, the one that's in there was back, the new job we're asking for was done from 2008 to 2013. They reported to the director of finance. Sometimes Rick Belden was referred to as an assistant
So
superintendent.
do these positions right now report to Mr. Bucci?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so-
And that's how they need to be, but I think what you're thinking about, sometimes on there and any other assigned duties by the superintendent. Yes.
Okay.
Are these positions, one or both of them, potential pipelines into that business manager position? So, we know that there's a shortage in the state, and it would be great to be able to have folks.
I think if there was a person that came in with a bachelor's degree in accounting, that could be a good possibility. Right now, it says minimum at least of associate's degree. Sometimes you can find people that, if the pay and the need, it depends upon the candidate. But there are people who start out with the bachelor's and then, they with a master's and they get the 085. But they don't have to have a master's, only a bachelor's. So if they had a degree in accounting, they could be,
I would like to make a motion to retire the existing position of secretary bookkeeper and instead adopt a new position called payroll benefit specialist.
Motion by Ms. Harmeling. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kristen. Anything else?
And I just wanted to state publicly for the record, the reason I chose that language, because I don't want anyone to think we are adding a position.
no.
And the way it's written, new position, central office, this is a new job description.
Yes,
And we're
yes.
retiring an old job description, it's not an additional person.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh,
Beth.
did we
Yep.
second the motion? Has this been discussed, or is this language consistent with our bargaining unit agreements in terms of retiring positions?
Good question.
Basically, you're better off really not to even go there because those are positions, but if you go to a different job description, these are really new job descriptions and different titles. So it'd probably be better, don't even mention the union because they would not be a part of the union. So it's best to not even, just say we want to,
So is the way I phrased the motion okay? I don't really remember what I said
I'd
already.
probably redo it again and not say anything about the retirement, because some of these positions, like this old accounting supervisor position was there in 2008, 2013, was never abolished. So I think the safest way would be just to create this position. so we can post it based upon the retirement.
I'll amend my motion. I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay with that?
I'll withdraw my second.
I'd like to make a motion to create a new position in the central office staff called payroll benefit specialist.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Harlan, second, Ms. Bruno, and this, for the record, is to replace. No, let's not do that. All right, anything else?
No, I'll rephrase. For the record, we're not adding a body count. We're not increasing body count.
No FTE increase, yeah.
Yes.
No-
in the motion?
No,
No.
it's just, you know.
For anybody that's listening, there's not going to be there's not going to be 3 people working underneath the business manager.
Right, it's going to stay two.
Beth or Kristen? I seconded.
I know, I got her.
Kristen and
Second, Kristen and Kristen, yes.
Two Kristen.
Eight squared. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 6-0-0. Okay. Are we taking do we need any action on the accounting one? Or did you need to go back and?
Can we hold on to that?
We can hold on to that till December if you would.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? Since you
Sure.
won't be here? I would strongly recommend you require the bachelor's, so that way you know there's potential that the person can qualify for the OED-5. I'd also review the job description to make it look like the payroll benefits. There's a lot of things in here that aren't in the payroll benefits, like physical requirements, and I think for consistency moving forward, they should have the same format, the same kind of similar look and feel, and I don't know if Chris would have the same opinion, but I think if it's a great opportunity to kind of clean up.
Thank you.
the-
We worked very hard on this.
Yeah.
All 3 of us did. It's just, the only reason the old one was brought back and not revised a lot was to show you, but it would be
Yeah.
better for it to mirror the same thing, because we did a great job and we compared other places as well.
But I would highly recommend the bachelor's.
Okay, we'll bring it back in December and make the changes.
Okay. Item F is the SRO.
Yes, I would just like to mention, you'll see that I did put an email underneath with your paper document saying that our attorney supports our memorandum of understanding. We were very thorough with this. A special thank you to the chief. He and I worked different times on this. He was very dedicated. He came back to my office and we went through the law, the new changes, and that's also been scanned into your packet. And I just want to emphasize that. We have met all the requirements. A special thank you. When you look specifically at these changes, it's to be on the website, this MOU of understanding, and also in regards how we're going to report out to you as a Board of Ed. It might be better next month to wait to ask how you would like for me to share this. We're only supposed to share if there are situations where there are cases of assault. I have all the documentation prepared for you, but I think tonight would be best not to do that. We can also put executive session, that we would go into executive session to discuss this. The school resource officer prepared a wonderful summative for us as well that is better than looking at the actual case incidents. They've all been redacted. This is something that we have to be very careful with. Something you don't discuss out in public.
Something I don't even want to do. It's crazy.
Well, it's a little crazy what they have done and requesting. I just want to say a special thank you to Floyd, but also a special thank you to Fred Stanek. He shared the Shelton, their MOU. We used that as a springboard, so big thank you to Mr. Stanek as well for all his work in helping. And then Floyd looked over it all. He said it meets the requirements. So please approve just the memorandum of understanding, and let's talk more about next month, how you would like to know about detailed report that we're to share.
Make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Seymour Board of Education and the Seymour Police Department as presented by the superintendent.
All right, motion by
I'll
Ms.
second.
Harley, second Mr. Rohuniak. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 7-0-0. The next thing is discussion regarding Act 23-208. We don't need to take any action.
But actually just like we
Yeah.
talk about that
Yeah,
December.
let's talk about it in December, how you would like for me to disseminate the information where I'm in legal compliance, how you want it done. I think it'd be good to compare other districts, how they're handling it. Because it's a,
I bet you guys will hear a lot about it at the Cape Conference, so.
It's a crazy-
Good to wait until December.
it's a good suggestion. Thank you.
All right, item 8, we have the information section, athletic and health committee meeting, minutes. Why is there a central office? This one, is there an update to the relocation?
That's just showing how it was completed and totally met all of the requirements with the compliance and the occupancy and all that. The last official meeting of everything that was done. So they were very thorough. That's why you see that.
Okay, and then we have special ed enrollment report. Any questions for Dr. Boyle?
Thought he did a nice job. It was well done.
All right. Professional development schedule, then we have the activities and recognition,
Yeah.
hiring transfers, NIC, some resignations.
Yeah, the PD, I forgot to say a big thank you to Mercy Feige and all the planning that went into it. It was great. Joe, the situation with his retirement, he's also, and I'll have that on next month's agenda. We have a teacher critical shortage. We've checked with the state and with the retirement. He'll be allowed to come back to finish out the year. So we'll talk about that plan in December.
All right. Anything
Tough
on
time.
the information? All right, up next, we have Board of Ed comments, Chairman comments. I don't have anything. It's 20 to 10. Thank you again, Beth, for your 4 years of service. You will be missed, irreplaceable, and thanks again.
It's been fun.
Yeah, two things real quick. One, just best wishes, Beth. I'm sure we will talk soon. I appreciated my time working with you here. It was a pleasure. It's always tough to say goodbye to someone that you respect on a board and that you know does good work on a board. So you will be missed very much. The second thing is I just want to sort of clarify where I was at with the timing of these meetings. I don't personally have any issue with us taking extra time to be thorough during our discussion of possible action section. I think that should be the bulk of our time here. There's certainly times where at any meeting or any group of people that you can go on and miss the point perhaps, but I would prefer to see us, if we have to be here for 3 hours, but we're discussing, creating new positions or how we're going to spend money, I have no problem with that. I will never have a problem with that. I just want to be a little bit more clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you all for all your kind words. It's been a fun few years. Like I said, I learned a lot. Just continue to ask, all of you to be engaged and ask good questions and be curious. I think it's a big ship. Doesn't turn easily, but you're making progress, and but you got to ask why, and you have to ask those questions. As painful as the hours may be, I can't agree with Stefan more. As long as you guys are talking about important things that actually matter and improve academic achievement and our overall health of our school system, the better. So good luck. You guys got a lot of big issues facing in the next few years. You're going to be in a lot of hard positions, and I hope that you guys make good decisions for our kids.
I have 3 quick things. In our discussion about the business office, I think we had mentioned before that a recognition of the work that the two ladies we were discussing have done would be something that would be great to do before a meeting, before they move into that wonderful retirement. Also just want to notice that this is National School Psychologists Week, so I want to give Dr. Boyle and the psychologists in our special ed department, they do such crucial work in terms of evaluation, counseling, supporting, and consultation with staff and families. So I wanted to recognize those. And also just to thank Beth, your intelligence, your preparation, your engagement has been an inspiration. I intend to aspire to use words like procurement and strategic plan and all of those great ideas that you held us to. Those aren't going to be left behind, and we hope to see you in the audience here and downtown in the future. Thank you, I'll miss you.
I'm sorry that I had to leave for a moment, but again, it's something that I'm passionate about. I don't appreciate being cut off about it. I'm sorry that it's delaying our time together. I do want to wish Beth well. I think she brought a lot of valuable insight to our board, and I'm going to miss her little book of notes. And maybe one day we'll get a peek of all those notes she took for us when she sits on the other side.
I said everything I wanted to say to my friend Beth. And I'm sorry you're not going to be here.
Thank you, Beth. You have been so welcoming when I joined. You are a wealth of knowledge, and I definitely have appreciated your passion. Something else that I want to say is, I know they're not here, but our student reps, I really appreciated their input tonight.
It's great.
They were very well spoken. And
Yeah, they would, if I may, a big benefit to actually have them here beyond just their report. It was really nice to be able to ask a question and get an honest and thorough answer.
All right, Dr. Compton.
I'm going to be very brief. Lori's in the audience to just say something about Kindness Day. I just want you to read, we're going to put up on the website, we'll talk more about the new entry age for kindergarten. I just want you to read over the new legislation. This is being discussed in all school districts and looking at the new policy. I just want you to read about it, the assessment, and children with disabilities as well. Basically, it comes down to, really when you look at the cutoff, September 1st, but it also emphasizes that seeking early admission to kindergarten is not discretionary. It must be implemented if requested in writing by a child's parent or guardian. So there's a lot of really good summation in this. It's a good Cliff Notes version. We'll put it up on the website, and we'll talk more about our kindergarten and how other districts, how we're all facing the changes, okay? Just very quickly to wrap up, Lori, Seymour Kindness Day, it's a town initiative. Our schools are also embracing with banners. Would you like to show something? You got your poster here. It's gonna, it's November 13th.
Schools are having the banners made, right? So the banners are going to be displayed in the school on Monday. And basically, we're going to bring clothespins. And this is, the idea of it is that the children that day, everyone will get a clothespin and they can write some kind of kindness message on it. And it'll just be displayed on the banner. This is just a board that I've used at some of our events. However big, I don't even know how big your banner is, but. Okay. So
So mark that on your calendars. I think it's a good initiative with the town and the school system, and the buddy bench is important, and it's a good initiative about teaching kids to be kind to one another. It goes right along with social and emotional learning and gratitude and all that. So that's all I have to say. Fred Stanek was unable to make it tonight, so you, Mr. Estramello, will be giving an update about the Needs Assessment Committee.
All right, any questions?
I'd just like to publicly thank Allison Brett for her time at Bungay. She was our acting assistant principal while Mrs. Reed and Stacy were, I think she did a great job. I got to tour the pre-K program. They did an awesome job. I wasn't here last month to say this, but they really did a lot with not a lot, right? They made a beautiful space, and you could tell how proud they were of it, and it just was a great addition to the school, and thank you for your time there.
And a great newsletter. And a great newsletter. All right, any questions for Dr. Conklin? All right, Beth, you want to bring us home?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. It's not even 10 o'clock.
Second by Ms. Harding, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?